This is the mic check.
Mic check. SJ4 Gogeta is amazing. TV Legends is dead. Dokkan.
Dead to you.
No, it's dead. It's literally dead. The entire fan base hates it.
Mic check.
And now for my official mic check. See that behind you?
Here we go.
See that behind you?
Here we go.
Do you see that behind you?
Here we go.
Za Warudo.
Yes.
What?
Look behind you. That's what.
Oh,
Look. I literally said, look behind you.
behind me is in the wild.
I'm not in the mood to strain my neck right now, so I'll just take your word for it.
Za Warudo.
TV Legend sucks. But always.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CrossGen podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Get Geek podcast. Yes, we are double recording this week, and we are joined here by our host. I am Walt. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves? And we have a special guest, which we'll get to in a second. But let's start off with...
This might or might not be AJ, but just so you know, it could be AJ.
All right. Let us know when you're definitive about that.
Eli. Yeah. Just Eli. Just Eli.
No elaborate introductions this week?
Well, okay. Hold on. Eli. Yeah, frick. I'm not getting it. You go.
All right. And today...
You lie to me again, and I'll put you under the dirt.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
You lie to me again, and what do you want me to tell your parents? So
yes.
We'll go with something like that for that.
And
I'll be half-a.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have a special guest today. We are bringing on board for this episode.
It's half-a.
It's
I've
half-a.
said it at least 3 times, I think.
Why not go for 4?
Go for 4
or 5.
4 or 5. There's never enough.
There
Very generous.
So today we have a very specific, a specific, non-specific topic, right? Because I think everybody here in this room is a general fan of our topic, which is anime, right? I mean,
Anime, what's that? You have to live under a rock.
It's a very small genre. It's not very well known, you know.
I wouldn't say
little?
fan, because when you start saying that you're a fan of anime, my, is that a strong statement?
Well, there's a lot that goes into anime, right? There is
more than a lot.
There is subgenres upon subgenres of anime. Correct?
Yes, and if you're not an aficionado of each subgenre, then are you really a fan of anime?
That is a very interesting question, right? Because
I find that the anime community itself is at large very aggressive, especially with the West.
Yes.
Well,
that is
you're
very
not
true.
wrong.
Very much so.
You're not wrong.
There are some very hardcore fans out there from very specific properties, right?
Oh,
Are
God.
there
Don't
Can he beat
even
Goku?
Oh my God. Do you want to know I've probably stated this like numerous times, but do you know the initial reason why I absolutely hated Dragon Ball?
No,
It's because of these weeb fanboys like that.
Freaking
oh,
weebs.
Can you beat Goku?
Freaking weebs.
What?
Oh my god.
That guy can't beat Goku.
Well, that
Yeah,
argument,
That was
I've
literally a
I've watched
subject of
anime.
bullying
Yeah.
in my elementary school. That's how much I grew to hate it.
I visited Japan. I'm freaking Japanese for that, you know, because I watch anime all the time, like Dragon Ball
that's
Z.
not even.
That's weebs.
That's a weeb. But I was talking more so about like
What?
these absolutely toxic Dragon Ball fans.
Well, that's practically the entire fan base. That's not even just weebs.
Well, yeah, but I was talking specifically.
I'm
But
not sure
yes.
if otaku overlaps in that, but that is the unfortunate truth of a lot of Western anime fans.
that is true.
Yeah.
And the thing that you're talking about, where everybody's discussing who can Goku beat, that actually transcends
Are we going to
anime,
get to
right?
Superman?
Yeah,
Oh
Superman,
my god!
One Punch Man.
I literally saw a meme.
Is there anybody Hulk? Right?
Hulk.
Have we not seen Hulk? I mean, Goku literally, in the minds of the fans, he fights everybody, regardless of franchise.
Yes,
And it's always well, can he beat this? Can he beat that? Can he beat this? That's kind of like a common theme, especially with Dragon Ball, and I think in anime in general, right? Goku seems to be the guy everybody wants to fight.
No, it's more that they want everyone to fight Goku just so they can prove Goku is superior.
Yeah. It's not necessary.
Do we think that
Yeah.
Goku's superior?
Well, I think that when you go into the idea of Goku and why everybody wants him to fight and prove he is superior, is largely because Goku has, I don't want to say of recently, but as of late, defined the shonen genre. That subgenre.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the poster child. Yeah,
Yes,
I would agree with that.
the weekly fights, the
Excuse me.
the classic. Here's his next level of challenger, shonen protagonist. That is Goku. And so when you start when you start dissecting it, it is the question of, well, of course he can beat anybody. He's beaten everybody, and
Except for when he dies.
except for when he dies. But
Or when he fudges up and doesn't kill them and they win.
the shonen protagonist is meant to be superior, and so to argue or to state that the shonen protagonist could lose forever and it is impossible for the shonen protagonist to beat any other character is, unfortunately for a large portion of the Dragon Ball community, I would argue insulting.
So let me ask this question. I have another question about Goku, but I want to get your guys' opinions on this. Goku, Superman.
Okay.
Who wins?
I'll go first if you'd like.
Go ahead, yeah.
I think that the root of that question is based not in power level, because as Dragon Ball says, power level is total BS.
They're always constantly changing
Yes.
power levels.
Yeah.
You know, and it always means something different.
I think ultimately it comes to the question of the characters and the concept themselves. I know that this is a controversial opinion, but I very much agree with how Death Battle addressed it. The sole concept of Goku is that he is constantly growing stronger, is that he is constantly pushing his limits,
Mm-hmm.
but he has limits.
Yes.
The concept of Superman is that he is a man with no limits, and there is nothing that can stop him. Granted, comics have history. These characters do change, especially Superman with DC.
Mhm.
How many reboots are you going to do? But at that point, only one of them has a limit to give. Goku is defined by overcoming limits. Superman is defined by not having them. So when it comes to that question, only one of them has a concept of failure.
So you're going soup all the way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that that's a question of concept, not a question of character.
Okay. Guys, do you blah, 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 blah. Sorry. Guys, do you agree?
I actually do agree with Hafa. But here's the thing. I really do agree. Don't get me wrong. But like, especially with the way that they've been progressing with Goku in the manga lately. So you know about Ultra Instinct, right?
I'm familiar.
Well, he now has the ability to put Ultra Instinct on top of his other transformations.
Oh yes, of course he would.
Yeah.
Of course he would.
It's not so the way that works is the way he uses Ultra Instinct initially is that it's a transformation. But now he's more so using it in the vein of a technique.
Yes.
So when you do it like that, it's really tough to say. Like,
Is that more like a Kaioken now?
essentially,
They've made Ultra Instinct into a Kaioken.
He still has UI, the transformation, but he can essentially apply it like Kaioken. It's like a multiplier.
So I guess the next question is, will Goku go Super Saiyan 5 Ultra Instinct Kaioken times 20?
That's always the running joke.
Is that something that's going to be a thing now?
That's always a running joke. I mean, look at Goku Black in just Super Dragon Ball Heroes already.
God.
He has
Dragon Ball Heroes is crazy though.
Goku Black SSR 3. Oh my god.
Don't shoot that man.
Oh,
but
bro.
so in concept, I agree that Superman would win, but in terms of like and that's the other thing. Goku has a habit of not starting all out. So if Superman just steamrolls him at the very beginning, win. If he's holding back and drawing it out, it gets a little tough there.
See, the thing that I have,
But I do largely agree that Superman will win.
see,
It's just it depends on the circumstances of the battle. But in concept, yes, he wins.
to me, I think it's one of these things where, and just kind of bouncing off of your point, Goku, and this is one of the things that I think was prevalent in Dragon Ball Super is that he started out slow, which enabled Broly to continue to power himself up and match his level, and it was only until he reached Gogeta Blue, right, that he kind of stopped fooling around and said, you know what, I'm just going to rail over Broly. And that's how they ended the fight, right? But the thing that kind of bothers me when it comes to just saying that Superman is automatically going to win, Superman is DC's Boy Scout.
Oh, absolutely. That's
So, he has all this unlimited power, but by the same token, he's not ruthless enough to kind of use it to end the fight.
Unless you're talking about a very different iteration of Superman, like Injustice Superman.
Well, if you're looking at like the Snyderverse Superman, then I agree. He would probably, especially in his earlier iteration, like in Man of Steel, where he was forced to kill Zod, right? But again, he still had remorse. He did not want to go that far. And so, there's that small little piece of me, right, that says Goku is all about finishing. He's all about fighting. I would almost venture to say that Goku will do whatever it takes to end the fight because that's what he enjoys, right?
Actually, no, that's not often
Okay.
what you see.
No. Well, maybe I'm putting this in the wrong way. Goku puts fighting above everything else in the Dragon Ball universe, including his family,
Yes.
including the universe at large. That's partly the reason why we had.
That's why you have the Universal
Tournament of Power,
Survival
right?
Saga. Yeah,
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Kakarot, my wife is giving birth.
I don't
No.
care. We got to fight.
Me
You know.
too.
So that's what I'm kind of getting at with Goku is like he so enjoys fighting. That everything else is kind of secondary to that. And Superman is such that Boy Scout that I don't know if he would have kind of the capability to finish the fight.
well,
I
if
mean,
yeah.
Eli, what do you think about that?
Honestly, I don't think Superman either. It's a weird situation because you're putting two characters who are not willing to end a fight, and Goku would want to drag this out as long as possible, and Superman, not necessarily. He doesn't really want to drag it out, but he
holds
doesn't want
back.
to. He doesn't want to force himself to yeah. But okay, real quick. I'm not gonna go on a tangent.
No, that's fine.
And I'm not trying to provoke Goku versus Superman or anything like Goku can beat whoever. But I want to make the argument that Goku also has Zenkais. And Superman, who's practically willing to push him to his edge. Not to mention, you're comparing two different universes. So power levels in terms of ratings, they're sort of wonky because you're comparing two different.
But with those two characters, it doesn't even matter because Goku smashes his limits, like we mentioned earlier, and Superman has no limits.
I've brought this up before. I've seen like stuff like Goten. You know that meme where it's not really a meme where but he has his finger up and he just blocks like I think it was Mizuki Midoriya.
Yeah, it's like that is a meme at this point.
Yeah, but that basically what I'm saying there is that you're comparing two different universes. So in terms of scaling, I don't think that Superman would necessarily win. Not to mention Goku has Zenkais.
But you know what Superman has? Solar power.
Yeah, and he's limitless, but
you don't think Goku would destroy the sun?
Yeah, Goku could just as easily destroy the sun, and it wouldn't
would
really
he
matter.
be quick enough to pick that up?
You know what? He wouldn't even want to destroy the sun, so I'll give you that. But
that's something a crybaby like Frieza would do.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean Piccolo
but Goku
probably.
does have the capability of doing that.
Oh,
right?
well, most definitely.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass it on to you. Halfa. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with one of the previous arguments on whether or not Superman would end the fight is that it moves the goalpost. And if I'm assuming everyone here is familiar with that logical fallacy. So the question was originally, can Superman beat Goku? And my answer was yes.
Okay.
Superman has the capacity to beat Goku.
Fair enough.
Okay.
In response to all of these ideas that Goku can infinitely multiply his power over and over and over again in the Dragon Ball saga, I completely agree. That's what Goku is.
But can I say one thing? He is unlike Broly, where Broly can instantly gain a next level, and we saw that in Dragon Ball Super. Goku, however, his limits are shattered through a period of training. So he won't be shattering those limits necessarily within the fight itself. That's him training to get to that next level. So, there's always going to be, he's not one of these guys that can easily adapt, in my opinion. And again, this is totally my opinion, during the fight. There are instances where he has attained a new level during a fight, but usually a lot of the things, what's the montage? He's always training and training and training, sometimes with Vegeta, sometimes with Beerus, just to get to that next level. So it's not an instantaneous slot to the next step for him. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. That's been Goku's sort of central theme. However, that I think only exaggerates my point, or exacerbate, is that the word? It furthers the point because Goku is at the end pushing a limit, whereas Superman's central theme is limitless, boundlessness. I think that regardless of the scenario, Superman will win. It is his concept in a very same fashion as to how I believe One Punch Man will win, and I don't think that it's appropriate at all to introduce him into any sort of combat like this. into asking who would win, One Punch Man or anyone else. Well, One Punch Man's concept is that he only needs one punch. Superman's concept is that he can overcome anything. He is super to all other things. Hell, he fights. His nemesis is essentially an entire dimension. Darkseid, I'm referring to.
Oh, well, he has multiple nemesis, but among the most threatening is Darkseid and Apocalypse.
Yes. The whole idea is that Superman is boundless. Whatever DC will throw at him, whatever DC will throw at him or the entire DC universe, he will fight, and he is, according to DC's themes, he will win. With Dragon Ball, Goku has failed. Like you said, he died.
He dies multiple times.
And Goku does get infinitely more powerful.
Because he trains while he's dead.
But
which is awesome in concept.
When he needs to get infinitely more powerful, as opposed to a man who does not need to become more powerful because he already is infinitely more powerful. Dragging along a fight doesn't quite matter. Instantly winning the fight doesn't quite matter, because at the end of the day, even at his maximum potential, which Lord knows with how they write Dragon Ball is never going to be reached, Goku could not win, because Superman's maximum potential is endless. Even at his limited potential, obviously Superman would win, just because I believe at his limited potential, a Saiyan is only as strong as man. But he's not boundless like Superman, regardless of the situation. I believe the question then was Boy Scouts and whether or not Superman would kill. But
that's more like a personality.
That's
thing,
more of a personality question. And even if we are to move the goalposts there, Goku is one to fight. Period. He does not. I don't believe that he is an ally to good, nightmare to you. That's the infamous mistranslation. Or the infamous localization.
Yeah. So just to speak a little more to that, he was kind of like that during the Frieza saga. By the time you get to Super, like Z, you can kind of see it there. Super, not at all. He's not like, he even says it at the end of the Tournament of Power. I ain't no hero for justice or anything like that.
I just want to fight.
Yeah.
He's almost, I won't say a villain, but he really doesn't care about the universe and the people at large in a sense, because all he wants to do is train and fight. And, whatever it takes. I mean, literally, the Tournament of Power was set up to eliminate universes. And he was kind of okay with that.
As long as he got to fight.
I'll ask this question, considering...
It's weird with him,
I'll ask this question considering that everybody else here is a big DC fan. And I already know the answer. Has Superman ever fought a foe with that type of personality? And has he ever defeated them? This does not necessarily mean kill. Has he ever defeated them?
No, Mongol, he's not like that. Someone who just likes to fight.
Well, someone who's willing to sacrifice anything for the fight.
That kind of technically, yeah, he kind of goes all out sometimes. Darkseid is more than willing to kill a few grunts just to achieve his end goal. There are a few. I can't name them all offhand, but those are just some to, like, I guess, give you an idea.
Yeah, and so in doing so, he has defeated those. He has defeated those, be it villains, just characters in general. So with that personality type, I don't think that it would much matter, because Superman is the concept of boundlessness. Goku is the concept of breaking bounds.
Okay. That works. So we're not going to continue with the whole Goku
Yes.
nonsense because
Let's
Please
keep
do not-
going.
Please do not comment and
Yes.
I'm not
make
gonna
direct
comment
attacks
anymore.
at anyone here. They're all great people.
Yes. We'll just leave it at that because I thought it was an interesting thing that, especially in anime circles, it's always the Goku versus everybody.
Oh, it's
Type of
it's
thing,
the it's the anime protagonist versus another anime protagonist. It's part of the thing that I love about shonen. It's everything gets crazier and crazier and crazier. Dragon Ball being a perfect example of that. So with
So-
that, yeah.
So do we have another series that we can say is a little bit crazier than Dragon Ball that you
It
guys
is
have?
a little bit crazier than Dragon Ball.
I mean, there's plenty out there.
I mean, it
right?
depends on how you define crazy.
Yeah.
Like there are some that are, I don't know,
Bizarre.
I mean, I wouldn't even
Yes.
say that that's crazier than Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I would.
Well, okay.
JoJo
I mean,
can be a
that's-
little out there though.
JoJo
Yeah.
can be a little out there with its personality, but
Yes.
overall,
I mean,
with
not
its
even
concepts, it's
that.
actually quite tame.
like a baby that can control a ghost-like spirit that can infiltrate your dreams and kill you.
You're
That's
forgetting.
pretty.
You're
out
forgetting
there.
strength. You're forgetting strength.
Oh my God! Yes,
Strength.
the
By
spirit
God,
that was literally an entire boat.
He was freaking, and then he turned into an orangutan.
No, he was the orangutan.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, he
strength
was, yeah.
held by an orangutan.
Yeah, he's a stand user. So
A monkey or an ape
Freaking
that
monkey.
can use a freaking ghost.
oh god,
Their spirit.
I just happen to love the whole thing with JoJo where they named their attacks before they're actually going to do it,
No one
Yes.
can deflect the Emerald Splash.
and it's the most elaborate named attacks that you can possibly imagine. Right? It's not just I'm going to punch you. It's the water foe helping monkey hand in the fist bush attack. or
I mean, there's only
Yes.
one character who will just say, "I'm going to straight up punch you now," and that's Jotaro.
yeah,
I will say
Jotaro is. Thank God. Thank God.
I mean, when I compare that to Dragon Ball and whether or not that's crazier, because there are plenty of other examples on crazy things that happen in JoJo's. It's all very bizarre. I would like to point out that if we're talking about an
Technically.
orangutan that's possessed by, how Jotaro puts it, an evil spirit, well, what about a child that can turn into a monkey? A giant monkey at that.
Okay,
And I only say
Alright,
monkey
that is-
because this thing has a tail. If I'm correct, this
yeah,
giant
you're-
ape has a tail.
Yes, you're talking about
the Ozaru.
the
Ozaru
Ozarus
form.
in Dragon Ball,
yes.
which is something that really has kind of gone away, right?
Oh, it
No.
got completely abandoned.
Yeah.
All right.
it
Well,
really
as
did.
far as Super is concerned, yeah, but at least another iteration
No.
didn't let that go.
I don't remember. What iteration is that, huh?
I don't know. Maybe it starts with G, ends in T.
It's non-canon, so
It's not.
Be quiet. You suck.
yeah.
Wow, knocked that.
And
one down
actually,
quickly.
technically, no, because remember,
What?
it's not completely cast off. Because remember how they explained Broly?
Oh,
His power
I'm waiting
is
for Akari.
like
I mean,
the Ozaru.
that's what I'm saying. I think that they're gonna lead into SAJ4, but that's besides the point.
And to your point, they did mention when Paragus
Yeah.
first got onto that planet, and he was with that poor guy that
Beat.
beat
Beats.
that
Beats.
quickly died very quickly. He was like, "Dude, don't look at the moon," and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." So they have kind of covertly put it out there, but they really, really have abandoned the whole, big giant monkey ape in a
Yeah.
bat. And
They've
sometimes,
abandoned Attack on Titan.
right, and with the monkey also has the battle suit sometimes, right?
Yes.
So, which is even more ridiculous if you think
Oh, you know
about
what?
it.
Yeah, Vegeta did. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that was only once, though.
But
Vegeta.
Also,
Yes.
remember,
Oh,
in
wait.
Super
Dragon Ball
mentioned-
Superheroes. Also, you had Cumbered Go Ozaru.
Yeah,
Not
he was
canon.
Golden Grade Ape too. Yeah.
Whatever, bro.
Yeah, there's
Whatever.
that
But again, going back to Super, when they find Broly for the first time on that planet, right? he did mention that his it was very much like the Hulk with the infinite stretchy pants, right? That Broly had changed Ozaru, and the reason he noticed that was because it looked like it was stretched out. Which
Okay,
again,
so
the whole stretchy
maybe
Hulk
they don't
pants
show
thing,
it
right?
on screen, but they still mention it.
Briefly.
They still mention it, and they, you know, like I said, the way Broly works in that movie, they kind of do like oh well, the way he transforms and develops, he's kind of like an Ozaru.
Okay, so here's my question. We've mentioned Dragon Ball.
Yep.
We have mentioned
JoJo.
We've mentioned JoJo's, and I made a passing comment about Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
And
Which is something that unfortunately, and I'm gonna have to admit, I still have not seen Attack on Titan yet, and I know that is an egregious act on somebody who claims to be an anime fan.
well,
Yeah.
here's actually my question, because we had begun this with, or I had begun this very cautiously, calling myself an anime fan, because it's a very Western tale that we would only mention, or we would first mention. Yes, we're anime fans. We've made mention of Attack on Titan. We've made mention of Dragon Ball, One Punch Man. We also made reference to, and am I forgetting anything? I know I just stated these.
Yeah.
But compared to what others would call an actual anime fan, they would list countless other obscure, or I would say unpopular anime, unpopular with respect to the West. So can we really call ourselves anime fans if we don't know these obscure or indie sort of titles?
I'd say yeah, although I'm not the best subject anymore because my dossier did kind of expand a little over the pandemic. But I think that's irrelevant. If you just, the way I see it, if you enjoy the content, the style of it, and you know, as long as you have like an appreciation for it, you can call yourself an anime fan. You don't need to know every single one in existence. Who is this character? What story do they belong to? Yada yada yada. That doesn't make you a better anime fan. That just means you have a deeper knowledge of the subject.
So let me ask this question then. Just on the subject of whether you're an anime fan or not. Is being an anime fan saying that as required viewing, you have to know Dragon Ball, you have to know Naruto, you have to know One Piece, you have to know Attack on Titan? Do you go back and say, well, Akira is something that's required viewing, Vampire Hunter D, Ghost in the Shell? Are we saying that as if you're claiming to be an anime fan, do you have to know at least the benchmark properties? Or maybe you haven't watched the entire series, because Naruto, I love Naruto. I am never going to get through the entire thing because that's like, what, 30 some odd seasons? If I can get through one season, for me, with my busy schedule, that would be an accomplishment, But I'm aware of Naruto. I'm aware of Boruto. I'm aware of all of those things, right? And I consider myself to be an anime fan, but again, I haven't had the chance to watch Attack on Titan. Hunter x Hunter is another thing that everybody says is an awesome show. JoJo, we've just started. You guys way further than I am.
Blazed past.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of properties that a lot of people would consider these are prerequisites to knowing anime. Do you guys all agree that you have to watch all of these shows and or movies to consider yourself an anime fan? Or if you're just a fan of, let's say, Dragon Ball and One Punch Man, is that sufficient enough? What do you guys think?
Well,
that's a tough question.
Well, personally, I think that if you get to the point where you notice the industries and their intellectual properties, the difference between Funimation and, say, Trigger, or I mean, by the time you have a Crunchyroll subscription, I think it's telling enough.
Well, I don't think it matters anymore because I think Funimation bought out.
Funimation has left, which is a sad thing for me because now I need to start a different subscription.
A lot of that stuff, by the way, is on HBO Max. Just so that you know.
I've noticed.
Yeah,
I've
so
noticed. I've started.
It has its own little anime section over there.
Yes, unfortunately, they are all dubbed. They are all. Pardon me, that's not true.
We're going to get into that question also, because we started discussing that earlier today.
My.
But we'll get into that a little bit later. But
Wicked.
I'm sorry.
Do not attack these people. They're great.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Now, once you get there, I've found my own small little sections of shows that I would say are obscure. I doubt many people would say Out Noah Zero is a good show. I found it enjoyable. Not saying it's good, just that it was enjoyable. However, I remember I was in Akihabara, and pardon me for mispronunciation there, if there was any. However, a man I knew, I believe he was from Russia, had absolutely no idea what the show was. And there were difficulties in his area, as well as certain other people that I had met there, because Akihabara is a hotspot for international travel, that they were just unfamiliar with certain properties. Heck, I think I met one who didn't even know what Godzilla was. And I know Godzilla isn't necessarily an anime, though they have had anime releases.
Mm-hmm.
However, that sort of closed off section and these regions where finding anime is difficult doesn't quite allow for that same in-depth analysis that I can do when talking about, or that we can do talking about Crunchyroll, Funimation, Trigger, and its desire to remove or add an additional sum of midriff to a young teenage girl with a talking shirt. So when we talk about that, I think unfortunately that definition for a fan has to change, because otherwise it's quite unfair.
Well, it's the reason why I ask is because it's interesting how, you know, there are some people in certain places where the definition of an anime fan is that you have to know all these properties, right? And the crazy part for me is that this seems to be like the one genre where you have that kind of phenomenon, because there are plenty of other people who are into sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
But sci-fi, again, much like anime, is a very broad genre, right? There you have, you know, your interstellars and gravities of the world, which is considered sci-fi. At the same time, you have your aliens and your predators of the world. And not necessarily a fan of sci-fi will gravitate to all of it. They may gravitate to just one part or the other. Same thing with horror, right? And things of that nature. So these genres are very, they can be broken down into subgenres, but you never have the argument, oh, you're not a real sci-fi fan because you've never seen, you know, Interstellar or Battlestar Galactica. That's a really good example.
Yeah.
But sometimes you come across, you know, somebody says, well, how can you be an anime fan if you've never seen Dragon Ball, right? That's and I find that disconnect to be a little weird. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I think it also is. I don't know, because at least with sci-fi, could you make the case that, let's say we took this back 20, 30 years ago, sci-fi was like the anime of like maybe 10 years ago, because you know anime was kind of fringe back then. No,
10
like
years
it
ago,
wasn't
2010.
popular. Yeah, like somewhere around
It
there.
wasn't as popular as it is today, I'd agree, but it was indeed popular.
Yeah, but like
I think if you go
when
back into like the 90s, that's where it was more of a fringe thing, because that's where you started to see kind of these properties come into the States, you know, things like Robotech, things of that nature. And that's what kind of opened up the eyes to the West for anime. And I think from there, it kind of really exploded, you know, things like Sailor Moon and whatnot, you know.
so
Um,
I'm thinking maybe what if it's a symptom of that? Like you like the reason why anime became so popular in the States is because you had those breakout titles like Dragon Ball Z and Robotech. And so from there you can kind of say, oh well, if these were the ones that made it popular, they must be so good that it's required viewing. Like what if it's a symptom of that?
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess, you know, but does that define you as an anime fan?
Personally, I don't think it does.
Okay.
What's difficult in answering this question is that after anime became somewhat popular, at the very least, in the West, Japan and its properties. So I suppose this goes a bit beyond anime, and I'll be referencing two sources, both video games, one anime, one not. Japan has been trying to pander a bit more to the West and reintroduce some of its properties there. What ended up happening afterwards was massive backlash. And with that being said, well, we have this large sum of Western panderized anime, of Western panderized properties. So when we have a large sum like that, I'll give two examples for you guys to work with. The first being, I'll get the non-anime one out of the way first. DMC Devil May Cry, that reboot was received terribly, and it was incredibly pandered to the West. And finally, Jump Force, of all things, a video game talking about.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Nope.
Video game talking about shonen anime was designed just purely artistically, was designed to be more gritty and further west. It got rid of cell shading, which is typical in anime. So is it fair to the Western anime fan, because we receive this phenomena that we have to, or most of us have to see the obscure or have to know something that is much smaller and less known in the West, when we have been fed a lot of Western panderized media?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Jump Force, because that kind of both me and Eli, I think, more so than AJ,
Yeah.
we're really looking forward to Jump Force,
Oh.
right? Because in a sense, it was kind of like the video game form of our first topic when we first started this episode, Goku versus
Superman, yeah.
right. So in that one, you had, you know, a lot of different properties where you can actually play that in real time, you know. Granted, it's a video game, right? But at least it was kind of like a fanboy's dream, right?
Yep.
Now, you know, before it's like, well, if you're playing a Dragon Ball game like Dragon Ball Xenoverse, you can only play Dragon Ball characters. If you wanted to play a game like One Piece, I forgot the name of the actual game, but you can only play Luffy and anybody in that universe. But here's this Jump Force thing. And again, I think to your point, it was more pandering to the kind of topics that we are engaging here in the West. Who can beat who? And it was kind of a big disappointment, right? Righty?
Train wreck.
And so I guess you're circling back to what you were saying, you know, there is that criticism that, you know what, you're now taking anime and you're kind of making it less than, because instead of kind of staying true to the roots of the actual, you know, genre itself, now you're kind of trying to modify it to the rest of the world, then you're kind of diluting some of the stuff, right? I think that's what the point you were trying to make.
Well, it was a question, and actually, I'll make this rhetoric. Did you guys know that there were jump games before Jump Force?
Not really.
No.
AJ says no.
I was
No.
aware.
No? Okay, so you guys weren't aware. Neither was I when the game released, and that's kind of my point. We've had these properties before, and then they get westernized. And then, according to the West, and according to popular opinion, the westernization sort of ruins it.
Mm-hmm.
In Eli's terms, this was a train wreck. So, with that train wreck, we're being fed, we're being pandered over and over and over again. While I don't think anime is in any way dying that way.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
This is lovely. Even both TV anime and manga, they're succeeding. The West and its comics industry is taking a tragic death rate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
However, with it, you get new generations, right? The 90s
Yep.
is not 2020. So what happens past 2020 when the original 90s anime no longer exists, or at least is very difficult to find unless you're willing to pay $200 for a disc copy of season 1 out of like 4? What happens then? Can you call that child? Can you call that adult an anime fan when they discover it? Because they encounter the Western style of anime.
What? Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
That was a loaded question, and it kind
Yeah.
of stumbled over itself. So we had
was awesome.
a huge wave in the West of anime, and I'll specifically point to the 90s. It was, giant laser beams are awesome, and we found that early on.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're 3 decades. We're 3 decades in.
Yeah.
We've seen the westernization, and Western pandering is still potential, and it still exists to be found.
Voltron.
Yeah.
Voltron
Yeah.
is a perfect example, because they've taken that 80s show and Netflix has kind of redefined it, with a Western kind of flavor to it,
Yeah.
So, okay.
Do you think? Okay, so what Josh is trying to say is that, especially when you're talking about, and like you said, one of the biggest problems was Neon Genesis, right? Evangelion. That was a property that you could not find anywhere, right?
Correct.
Up until recently. But there was a big subsection of people, that, us included, right, that we weren't, well, you weren't around. I was around when it happened. I just never watched it back then. But you weren't around when it originally came out. And if it wasn't made available, if they didn't get through, whatever legal wrangling that they had to do to actually let it come out and be released, you probably, to this point, unless you kind of streamed it illegally, right, would not have been able to watch Neon Genesis. Does that make you less of an anime fan, right?
Yeah.
Trust me, I understand the question. Trust me. But
it's a difficult thing to do, because you know what? It's kind of out of your hands.
yeah, damn, that's really a tough question. But I would say, if that, following the logic that you need to see all these main
tentpole
animes,
properties.
tentpole properties, Dragon Ball and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Following that logic, I mean, that doesn't make you an anime fan, but going back to the point that AJ made, and well, we all made, to be honest, just as long as you have a just as long as you can actually watch anime, appreciate it for what it is. I know that's not something that's, well, it is appreciated, but I know that there's a lot of people who don't appreciate it. It's like the highs and lows. But as long as you can appreciate it and you're entertained by it, then yeah, you're an anime fan, I guess. So, yeah. If you, it's sort of a weird answer, but you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask this question. I think we're getting close to wrapping this up, but it's been a super interesting conversation, and I think we probably should have like a part 2 for this because there's
Yes.
so much that
I wanted to talk about shows in the early 2000s.
Well,
Oh.
let's
Those
talk
are
about
Western
that.
release shows.
But let me ask you this question then, because we're now in 2020, 21, right?
Yeah.
And anime has really exploded. I think it's more popular now than at any other time, especially in the West, right? Like kids, I mean, a perfect example, right?
It's,
Art and design, which you're going to high school, right?
yeah.
What was the thing that the educators there were talking about when it came to
Anime.
but when they were talking about your portfolio and the things that they did not want to see.
They didn't want anime. I mean, that's,
And it seems like every kid at that point,
Yeah.
when they said no anime, they were like, oh. So my question is, are we at a point where with Netflix having an entire section devoted to Netflix anime originals, which includes Godzilla, the
Singular
Godzilla.
Point.
the Earth Godzilla,
Yes.
Singular Point. There's a Witcher anime.
Coming out?
coming out.
It's
Yeah,
coming
that's
out.
coming out.
Wait,
There's
is that anime or animation?
I think
That was the question I wanted to ask.
'Cause
they
I'm
have
pretty
it
sure that's
listed as an anime.
Really?
Yeah, I
No.
believe so.
That looks more along the lines of animation, kind of like what's that show Castlevania.
Castlevania is not.
That's what that reminded me of. that trailer.
Castlevania is technically anime.
and so at the point we're now
But
at
was
the
it
point where
listed
we're kind of
as
blurring
anime?
the lines
We're
between
blurring the lines.
anime and animation,
We've-
and
we've
here that's a
already been
perfect
at that
explain.
point. We've
But-
already been at that point.
But I think that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to get at is, are we at the point where we're seeing too much, where the genre is being oversaturated by all these properties that Netflix, because they know what's popular, right? They have algorithms that show you that stuff. The Crunchyroll and the Funimation originals, all these things. I mean, we've had Matrix animes. We've had the
Animatrix.
mainstream things that are now being turned into anime and animation projects. Are we at the point where there's maybe a little too much?
Well, if there was an oversaturation, I think the market would have replied and would have found alternatives. Specifically, live action is one of the largest alternatives. Trying to make live action Godzilla, which we are seeing in the West. However, that success compared to Earth Godzilla or Singular Point, I'm not quite aware of, but I do know that Singular Point and Earth Godzilla are still very popular. We've been blurring these lines for
Yes.
so long. This is 2021, yet in 2003, we saw the release of Teen Titans on Cartoon Network. And
Mhm.
it was heavily inspired by certain aspects of anime. Now, they themselves, the producers themselves, had their own name for the animation style. However, it was clearly inspired nonetheless. Then there is this, I believe this is still a statement that not many people might agree with. There was the question of whether or not Avatar, The Last Airbender, was an anime. Because
another
it
good
very
one.
clearly was inspired by that animation
Sure,
style.
of course.
These lines have been blurred for a very long time, and they have been aimed towards the youth.
Mhm.
We've seen what's it? Would you consider Pokemon an anime? I would.
That's
I would call it
another
much
good
more of a
one.
cartoon, but that question is still there. We see Japanese media being pushed into the West for the youth, and even though there are older, more traditional Western styles that might want to be put in, for example, that I believe it was a professor who critiqued the Western art, the art portfolio and preferred more Western styles. So moving forward with the question of oversaturation, we have a youth that is being grown to enjoy anime because it is being, again, aimed for them, no problem with it, and is a good product by and large. So I don't think the problem of oversaturation is going to come anytime soon, if at all, because the youth and the, I suppose, seniors, neither of these groups seem to have a disdain for the market product itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Or will have a disdain, I should say, in the near future.
You know what be interesting? So I know this is going to be like super far out there, and I'm going to get like some of the weirdest looks on earth right now. But
I'm
so
waiting.
the Western comic book industry is dying.
Yep.
What if they start bringing on the guys that make the manga to kind of spice it up a little bit?
I don't think that that's a weird question. I think that that's part of the free market, if anything. There is high demand for manga right now for good reason. We're getting some really good releases. However, comics doesn't really know what it wants to do.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's a weird question at all. And any odd looks, I think, would be naive.
Yeah, because I mean because like you said, manga is high in the market right now. So what if they start kind of reimagining comic books in such a way that like adheres to the manga style, or I guess like the way they kind of make manga,
But
and they just take the stories and kind of transplant them. And I don't know.
Hold on.
I don't think I'm putting this out the
Well,
right way.
you want to?
For a historical example, you got the spread of Hellenism heavily inspiring the Romans. It's why we have the term Greco-Roman. There's so much inspiration coming there and shifting this entire area and region towards Hellenistic view. And it defined Lord knows how much time. So if we see that same spread happening from Japanese media into American media, I wouldn't say that that's anything new, nor would I say that that's anything unpredictable.
Yeah, I happen to agree with that because, same thing. Really, well, it's the same thing that happened with comic books. You have books like the Odyssey that were translated into graphic novels, then translated into comic books, etc., etc. I don't need to go any further than that, but I still have a little bit of a problem with doing something like this because I've seen it done before. You have Star Wars, the manga, which I've read, and you know what? To be honest, I'm fine with it. It was a good manga to read. However, so that you're continuing to blur the lines between manga and the rest of media, and that seems to be the main thing with today's media, especially because I wanna point something out. Recently we had Mortal Kombat come out, and I believe, what was it, the anime frick, the one with Ren Goku and freaking
Red Goku. What?
wow, am I really forgetting? Demon Slayer. God,
Demon Slayer.
yeah, Demon Slayer beat it, which is like still, I know that.
That's still telling about the oversaturation.
Yeah,
But here's what he's talking about. He's talking about the live action Mortal Kombat movie that came out,
as opposed to Demon Slayer.
right? And so they were both released in theaters at the same time. And what Eli is referencing to is the fact that Mortal Kombat for the box office for their opening weekend was about 25 million.
And Demon Slayer beat it by a lot.
No, I think they came in second, but they were very, very close to beating. I think it
Really?
was about $22 million that they opened up with. And I'll double check the figures just to make sure, because the last thing we want is put in wrong information on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
But
Believe everything you read on the internet.
exactly.
even still, you really, I like the idea, but to do something like that, it's just like the Snyderverse. You're introducing something that technically wasn't supposed to be introduced in the first place. I mean, no, that's weird. No, but
Ooh, that's
Okay,
dangerous
hold on,
territory, my friend.
no, but we've talked about this before. You're basically, the whole thing with the Snyderverse was that you're practically enabling fans and doing all that. But what I'm saying here is that you're not okay. Hold on, I need to get my thoughts straight. Jesus Christ. Okay, but what I'm trying to say here is that the Snyderverse, as well as it was, it. Wait, hold on. Okay. As good as it was,
Okay.
it wasn't, and it shouldn't have been introduced in the first place. And that's the same thing with manga comic books. It's a nice idea, the one that you proposed, but it's not supposed. It shouldn't happen, and it's not supposed to happen.
Okay, but what if it happens anyway?
It
Well,
shouldn't
then it
happen,
happens
and it's
anyway.
not supposed.
Well, then it happens anyway.
It
There's
shouldn't
nothing I can do
happen,
about
and
that.
it's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, that sounds really.
But it's already kind of happening.
okay. Yeah,
I can't vouch for that, and if anything, I would disagree, because we've had the recent release of, and please God, don't buy this, of I Am Not Starfire, and I Am Not Starfire was the talk of the town, and it is most certainly not manga inspired.
What is this?
You don't know what I Am Not Starfire is? Perhaps this should be
No.
your next topic. It is one of the last throes of the comics industry, talking about the daughter of the famous and well-beloved Starfire and Dick Grayson.
Oh.
So I highly recommend you enjoy Starfire and Dick Grayson in any other media except this one.
So just going back to what we were originally talking about, Mortal Kombat opened up to $22 million its first week, followed by Demon Slayer, which took in about $19 million. However, that was flipped on its second week, because Demon Slayer then took over the first spot in its second week. So Mortal Kombat, both films dropped significantly in terms of overall box office. I think both of them went down by 80%. But clearly there is that alone shows you how much of a want there is out there, for anime, because Mortal Kombat is a pretty established franchise, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean,
The only problem is that they haven't had the best track record with movies.
Yeah.
Right. But with the video games, they've been very
of course.
popular, right?
Yes.
And Mortal Kombat as a series itself hasn't seen a film in quite a while, so you know that there was kind of like that pent up expectation, and then to see Demon Slayer, which, to be honest, is maybe not the most well known anime franchise out there, and again, I'm just saying in terms of the general public, but to see that it nearly beat Mortal Kombat, that's pretty significant, I would say, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, I think that comes back to the statement about the oversaturation of an anime market, and we're not seeing it, at least here in the West.
Right.
We're not seeing it at all.
Okay.
I think that would happen in the coming years.
All right. Is there anything else we wanna talk about in terms of anime itself? I mean,
Hold on.
I mean, is Avatar anime? Is Teen Titans 2003 anime? You have plenty of great examples there.
Well,
If you want to work with that,
if it's okay, I'm gonna go with this question. If it's, I feel that now this is very controversial, and I've heard this from some of my friends who have said that. But if it's an anime, if this property is a Japanese property and it has the anime style, it's considered anime. Which is, look, I'm not gonna say it's weird, because it's like, I'm not gonna say it's controversial, but like it sorta is.
it's dicey.
Yeah.
It's dicey.
Yeah.
Because if there is an American produced anime, and granted, we've
It uses
walked
Japanese anime.
that uses Japanese anime styles and Japanese anime tropes. We've walked that line before, and I know we've walked that line because those lines have been blurred. I've given the two examples of 03 and Atla. So if an American produced anime was to come out, would it truly be anime? And I would argue, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question, and here's a perfect example of what you're speaking to. Altered Carbon is a Netflix series, a sci-fi series that lasted for 2 years. It lasted for 2 seasons. It wasn't renewed for a third, but it was a pretty substantially popular franchise, right?
Yeah.
For the 2 seasons I was out there, and it was very well made, very well made. Pardon me. But there was an anime
Yes, I remember that.
that came out.
Yes.
It was, like you said, a U.S. production, but utilizing Japanese animation style. And to your point, now, do you consider that an anime?
Well, here's the question. Did it fail? Or is it failing?
Well, no, it only came out for the 1 season. It was kind of like a how would you say it? It was kind of like
It was like
A U.S. experiment.
prequel spinoff.
right, exactly. It wasn't required watching for the Altered Carbon main series, but it kind of gave you a deeper understanding of that universe. It was very much like the Animatrix to the Matrix franchise. It was not required, but you know what? If you watched it, you got a little bit more insight into the universe.
Nice
and it
little-
only lasted for the 1 season.
Yeah.
You know. But again, it was a US production using an art style that's more akin to, you know, the anime, and using actual Japanese artists, animation artists. That's kind of like one of the examples that you were making, right?
Of the examples that I was making, I cannot say for sure, simply because I don't know if there were any Japanese artists or Japanese animators that were a part of it.
There were.
There were. Then I would say, then yes, that is very akin to the examples that I was making. And for as much as I'd like to say,
And it was a movie. I'm sorry, it wasn't a. It
was
wasn't
a movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't a series. So I take that back.
for as much as I would like to say that there is an easy answer of whether or not it succeeded or whether it failed, I cannot answer in that way because, well, again, I point back to the 2 video game examples, Jump Force and DMC Devil May Cry, the reboot. And even though those games had their controversies and many people simply disagree with its existence and were saddened by it, at the end of the day, they're still video games. And they're still video games with the properties, with the intellectual properties concerning them.
Mm-hmm.
Jump Force still had its anime base, It was just presented in a different life. DMC, Devil May Cry, still had Devil May Cry. It was just presented in a different and dislikable light. So whether or not it's an anime, I believe that we will be seeing a mesh, because it seems as though anime cannot well compete against cartoons, because cartoons are still popular. I don't believe they're on a decline. However, I say that it cannot compete in the sense that it is currently... I should rephrase this entirely. Anime can indeed compete with cartoons because it is currently doing so. It cannot succeed and overtake cartoons. So what I believe we will see is that the critically successful shows, such as the Teen Titans 2003 animation, as well as Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animation, not the movie,
or the live action series that's coming out shortly.
Or the
Yes.
Pokemons, which, believe it or not, still have ongoing shows.
Oh God!
So
don't remind me.
I think that we're going to see more of a blend for those types of shows and animations here in the West. And those will be the ones that are critically successful, and those are the ones that I think there are a demand for. A blend of both traditional Western animation as well as the anime that we're seeing in the East.
It's kind of an evolution of anime in a sense.
Historically, it's called cultural diffusion.
There you go. All right. I think we're gonna call this episode. We've gotten pretty deep.
You've gone out there.
Yeah, we really took a deep dive into this one. And funny, we started out with Goku versus.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how this episode
Yes.
started, and we've gotten into something different. All right. Well, on that note, like I said, the best way that you can, we'll do this now because we didn't do it before,
Yeah.
but the best way that you can help out this little podcast, remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Tell all your friends. And from all of us here, we're just going to sign off because I need to go watch some anime right now.
Amen.
I need to go watch. And, I can't wait for The Witcher because The Witcher actually looks pretty interesting.
It reminds me of Castlevania. The way it's
really
animated.
does.
Yes, same here.
So, and Castlevania was one of our favorites.
amazing.
It's an amazing series. For anybody who hasn't seen it, please go out and go see Castlevania on Netflix because it really, really is good. It goes to places that you don't think they would go. And especially the shocking end of, what was it, season 1 or 2? It was season 2, right?
What?
What?
Where the main, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who
Okay.
hasn't seen it, but the main guy,
The show
Oh,
seems to
you
have a lot of
mean-
twists and turns.
I see. You don't expect someone to die, but they do.
right? Exactly.
And it's like, where do you go from here?
Exactly. So it does a really good job of taking its main property and kind of flipping it on its head, and it,
Sort of Snape kills Dumbledore idea.
yeah, in a sense, and you don't expect it, and you're left wondering where do they go, and the places that they go is infinitely interesting for the Castlevania franchise. So it's unfortunate that it's ended, but like I said, for anybody who really wants to go see a very well done show, please check out Castlevania on Netflix. But
And then go watch our episode on Castlevania.
that is true.
Yes.
That is true. Good segue. So anyway,
Shameless self-promotion.
Like I said, we're going to end this episode here. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great episode. Still don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out.
I'm Not Starfire is a brilliant suggestion. I think you guys will not enjoy it at all, only to come right back over here and have an incredibly enjoyable conversation about the potential death of the comics industry.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So
The
on that
bell
note,
tolls.
on that note, Well, that's another episode for another time. The death of comics, right?
No.
Or maybe not. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Anyway, like I said, on that note, we're going to sign off. My name is Walt.
Okay, this is definitely AJ. I know we had this problem at the beginning, but it's definitely AJ.
I couldn't tell from the voice.
Eli. Wait. Oh God.
Oh,
What
come
was
on,
it?
not you
Eli-
too.
Eli to me, and then I like.
You just have to make an incredibly vague threat.
Okay. Eli to me, and now
I'll destroy you.
that's
That's a pretty
boring.
big threat.
That's boring. Eli to me, and I threaten your family.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
quickly.
like, I had implications.
Yes.
That was.
Wow. And I would like to thank our special guest, Hafa, for joining us on this episode.
I would like to thank you for having me.
All right.
This has been fun, more than fun.
There you go. And until then,
Okay.
come
you know how
on.
we
Nail
have
it,
to do
E.
this.
Nail it.
You know I'm gonna have to. We usually do it. Just so you know, we usually do like themed and ending things. So it's usually may our paths cross again, because we're CrossGen, so it sort of makes sense. But we have to do something.
May our keys.
Keep around about.
Yes.
Yes. Take you out and out. Out of way away.
May our. Damn. I was gonna say.
May our dams cross again.
May our. No.
Near Dan.
Yes, dams.
No.
Oh God. May our bloody streams. Oh no.
Yes.
Yes. That is the best intro.
May our bloody streams.
Yeah. May our bloody streams.
May our bloody
cross again.
streams yet cross.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Later, people.